Famers that are here. We're going to run down that list again for you. And Steve's going to read off the whole list, and then I'm going to read off a little bit of a history of each person that's going in the hall so we can honor them and celebrate them. And of course, we have some more sparring that'll be going on a little bit later on as well. So we're just going to have a good afternoon, and once again, we're extremely happy to have you all here. I think first thing we need to do is give a nice round of applause to these young men over here, because they've been entertaining us all day with their blood, sweat, and tears. So we appreciate them putting in the work so we can enjoy some sparring today. At this moment, if I could ask everyone, if you're sitting down, if you're able to stand, if you can't do it, I understand, but we have a little memorial we'd like to read. So if you're able to, please stand, and if not, it's okay. But every year at the Hall of Fame, we always like to take a moment to remember those in the boxing community that we lost during the year from June to June. Today we're going to do something a little bit different, because unfortunately we lost a very special member of the Hall of Fame, and he has very close ties right here to the SJC gym. And because he was very close to Steve and a significant member of Steve's team, we want to make sure that we honor him the right way, and that's what we're going to do right now. He was a young man who at once was homeless before he moved to Pensacola, Florida. He developed as a professional fighter with the help of Roy Jones Sr. and also Alton Merkson, who was in the Hall of Fame. His career rose from his first pro fight in '89 all the way to winning the International Boxing Organization Cruiserweight Championship. That was in 2001. His last fight was in January of 2008. He finished professional boxing with a record of 29 wins, 8 losses, including 26 wins by way of knockout. He was inducted into the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame this past June, and I think I speak for the entire hall that we're so glad that he was there with his family to enjoy that moment, because unfortunately we don't know how long or short life is, and in December, mid-December, unfortunately at the age of 45, we lost this young man. And he is survived by his wife, his 2 sons. Steve was his manager, trainer, took him overseas to win his world championship, and some of the best sparring he got, some of the best training he received for that title win was right here in the SJC gym, and some of the fighters that he sparred with are here today, so it's quite fitting that we honor him at this time. And Steve is going to take the role of timekeeper. He's going to ring the final toll, as we do in boxing, to honor those who we've lost. So at this time, in honor of former IBO world champion Ezra Sellers, our 10 count. May he rest in peace. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate it. Please have a seat. You got a seat. So at this time, I would like to introduce you to a gentleman who's, he's been in the business for a few years, just a couple. Probably more than a lot of us have been alive. I think he's done just about everything you could possibly do in the business. Trainer, fighter, manager. He's been a TV commentator. He is now writing a book, which I absolutely know is going to be a bestseller one day. Can't wait to read it. And of course, he is the founder of this legendary gym, the SJC Boxing Gym. He was inducted, rightfully so, in the very first Florida Boxing Hall of Fame class back in 2009. And it's very much my pleasure to be here to introduce him as we celebrate another year, a great successful year for the SJC Gym right here in Fort Myers. Would you please welcome my friend and yours, one and only, Mr. Steve Canton.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's always a pleasure. These are the highlights of the year, our open house and our Hall of Fame induction. And we want you to be there in June for the new class of 2014. I'll take just a couple of seconds and we'll cue up the old iconic Gillette Cavalcade of Sports theme song for Friday Night Fight, just for a few seconds, and then we'll get into the list of names. I know that brought back a few memories. The Florida Hall of Fame Class of 2014 inductees. This year, living inductees include former world champion Mike the Body Snatcher McCallum. Top contenders Francisco Areola, Jose Rebalta. Trainers James Buddy McGirt, Leo Balacides. Promoters Walter Alvarez, Louis de Cubas, Felix Tutico Sabala. Historian Don Cogswell, Media Santos Perez. Boxing official Paul Herman, and Ed Levine and Fred Levin in the participant categories. Posthumous inductees include former world champ Kid Gavilan, top contenders Tony Alongi, Carl Red Gugino, and James Salerno, represented here by his father Sal. Trainers Jose Caron Gonzalez, Mo Fleischer, and boxing official Alvin Goodman. At this, I'd like to turn it back over to Bob and get into some of the details and some of the background of some of these great inductees. Many were personal friends of mine and others here in the room, so very pleased with this list. Thank you, and here goes Bob.
All right, Steve. First of all, Mike McCallum. He was a gentleman who was born in Kingston, Jamaica. They called him the Body Snatcher because of his fierce body punching styles. He won 3 world championships in 3 weight classes. He had an illustrious amateur career, 240 wins and 10 losses. As a professional, 49 wins, 5 losses, 1 draw, 36 knockouts. He was never knocked out as a fighter. Moved to Las Vegas after retiring and became a trainer. He was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 2003, and we're going to be very pleased to honor him in the class of 2014. Last Saturday, when we had our official unveiling of the list, we did it at another boxing gym called the Legends Gym, which had a very close tie to our next inductee, Francisco Areola. He was born originally in Mexico. He moved to Bloomington, Illinois as a young man. Had an incredible amateur career from 77 to 85, 213 wins and 16 losses. Turned pro in 1986. He won the Florida State, the WBC Continental, and NBA featherweight world title. Finished his career 29-3-2. And as we mentioned, he's become a fine professional trainer with a great young stable of fighters, and has run the Legends Boxing Gym in Tampa very, very successfully. So Francisco Areola in the class of 2014. Jose Rebalta is a former heavyweight contender. He was born in Cuba. Amateur record 55-8, 26 knockouts. He turned pro in 1982, fought until 1999. During his career, he stepped in the ring with 11 heavyweight champions. Mike Tyson once said that the toughest fight of his pro career was against Jose Rebalta. His final ring record, 38-17-1, 27 knockouts. And after boxing, he became a school security guard for Miami-Dade County Public Schools in South Florida. We're very pleased to welcome Jose Rebalta. James Salerno was a fighter from Orlando, great amateur, who was trained by one of our very own Hall of Fame inductees who is here with us today, and I'm going to get into him in just a few moments. He was considered a can't-miss pro prospect, did suffer a few heartbreaking, controversial losses, and was stepped out of boxing. He worked as a landscaper. Unfortunately, we lost him back in August of 1999 at the age of 38, but we never forgotten him, and we are very, very pleased to welcome his father Sal, who is representing him here today, and that's James Salerno.
Right here.
There he is. Tony Alonghi was a highly regarded and a very highly touted amateur prospect back in the 1960s. As an amateur, he was undefeated, 27-0, 12 knockouts. He took the boxing world by storm as a pro, and in Miami, which was his adopted hometown, he became the #1 contender. He was a very favorite fighter of one of our Florida Boxing Hall of Famers, the legendary Chris Dundee. But he suffered some elbow and eye injuries, and he had to retire at an early age, at the age of 27. Finished up 40 wins, 2 losses, 4 draws, 23 knockouts. He never received his coveted title shot, but he's always been looked at as one of the finer fighters of the 1960s as a heavyweight, and lived a quiet life in South Florida until his passing. Tony Alonghi. This next gentleman holds a very special place in many of our hearts that have been around Steve in the SJC gym, because if you were around back in those days when Steve was promoting fights up in my area in Punta Gorda, Steve would always make sure that we had a special guest come join us for the fights, legendary figures from the world of boxing. And I couldn't name them all because it would probably take me a half hour, but there were some really, really great names that Steve made sure were there and were honored and got to enjoy the limelight late in their life. And it was just a great thing that Steve did by bringing those fighters. And it was a real highlight that back in 1997, in Punta Gorda, Steve put on the very first show that was ever broadcast on the internet. You got to remember, 97, the internet was kind of a new thing. It's very common these days, but back then it was still in its infancy. Well, Steve put on the first show that was broadcast on the internet, and this gentleman was our guest for that very special show. Kid Gavilan, former world champion from Cuba, one of the few boxers, again, never knocked out in his professional career. He was inducted into the original Boxing Hall of Fame in 1966, and later he went into the International Hall in Canastota, New York. Stepped out of boxing, 107 wins as a pro, 30 losses, 6 draws, 1 no contest, 27 wins by knockout, 143 professional fights. We lost Kid Gavilan at the age of 77 in Miami. We always remember that famous bolo punch, and it's very, very exciting and fitting that we welcome him this year into the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame. Jose Caron Gonzalez, also born in Cuba, had a short amateur career and a pro career as a welterweight. He became a sparring partner and later a trainer in the early 1940s. He had a number of fighters that he trained that were great, great fighters, including welterweight champion Benny Kid Perret, a world-rated contender Jose Stable, light heavyweight contender Freddie Delgado, junior welterweight Coco Sanchez, along with Florida State champions Juan Arroyo, Pedro Laza, and many others. And he ran a gym until his final days and is always remembered as a terrific trainer, and we are very happy to welcome Jose Caron Gonzalez into the Hall of Fame this year. Our next inductee, James Buddy McGirt, going into the Hall as a great trainer, but a very, very successful fighter, former light middleweight, welterweight, and light welterweight world champion. As a trainer, he became a trainer, and 6 days later, he had his first world champion. He might have set a record for getting a champion the quickest starting his training career. His first champion was super middleweight Byron Mitchell. He fought Manny Siaka just 6 days after taking over Mitchell and won the WBA welterweight title. And he is also known as the Boxing Writer Association of the Year, Trainer of the Year for 2002. And we're very extremely happy and looking forward to having James Buddy McGirt join us this year in the Hall of Fame. Mo Fleischer was born in New York. He had a 2-bout pro boxing career followed by a lifetime as a legendary matchmaker, promoter. He was a booking agent, he was a trainer. He was known as Sellout Mo because he had a streak of over 24 club shows that sold out to standing room only audiences. We lost him back in 1980 in Miami, but he was a fixture at Angelo Dundee's world famous 5th Street Gym. Had a number of great fighters that he worked with, Tom Heaney, Kid Chocolate, and one of our very own, For the class of 2011, Florida Boxing Hall of Famer Elisha Obed. Mo Fleischer. Walter Alvarez was a Miami-based promoter who worked with some of the biggest names in the sport in the 1980s. Probably the biggest fight that he's remembered for is probably the greatest fight that we ever saw here in the state of Florida. It was the epic bout between one of our very own Florida Boxing Hall of Famer Aaron the Hawk Pryor and the legendary Alexis Arguello. That was in 1982 in the Orange Bowl. So Walter Alvarez, a great Miami-based promoter, and we're very pleased to welcome him into the hall this year. Louis de Cubas has been a promoter, he's been a booking agent, he's been a manager, and he's had some of the top names in the world of boxing over the years, including our very own Jose Ribalta, who's going in the Hall of Fame this year, world champion Robert Daniels, and a guy that you may have heard of, also in the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame, Manos de Piedra, Roberto Duran. He's been a long-time fixture in the world of boxing, still active to this day, and we're very fortunate and excited about welcoming Louis de Cubas. Felix Tutico Zabala. He took over the promotion company that was run by his father for many years. His father also a Florida Boxing Hall of Famer in the very first class in 2009. His father fell sick, and Tutico took over the business, and he's been promoting now for a good 20 years. He's very highly respected, does a great job, has a regular fight series on Spanish television, and we're very, very excited to have father now and son in the Hall of Fame, Felix Tutico Zabala. Don Cogswell is a very highly respected boxing historian, a freelance photographer, and a very much acclaimed author. He's also the vice president of the International Boxing Research Organization. He has given many informative lectures during past Hall of Fame weekends, and I was kind of surprised to learn today that come June, when he is inducted that weekend, he's already been corralled into performing another lecture, so he's going to have to work on the weekend that he's being honored. But that's just the kind of guy that he is, and he is here with us today. If we could please give a nice round of applause for inductee Don Cogswell, right in the back of the room. You're going to work, Don. You got to make sure it's your best lecture ever. You can't slack on this one, right? No, he never slacks. Ed Levine is the president and partner in the International Boxing Organization since 2000. He has a very solid reputation in the boxing business for his fairness, his integrity. He joined the IBO in 1999 and loved it so much he retired from his active law practice so he could concentrate on his boxing activities. So we're very pleased to welcome Ed Levine into the hall this year. Fred Levin, a top attorney in the Pensacola area, was invited to join the world of boxing when a young man named Roy Jones Jr. came on the scene, and he hasn't regretted it since. He helped form Square Wing Promotions with Roy. He's been a big advocate for the rights of boxers out of the ring, their health, and just a great, great guy. Done a lot of great work, and we're very happy to welcome Fred Levin. Leo Thalassides has worked with fighters, household names like Hector Macho Camacho, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, and Roberto Duran. Not only known for what he's done in the ring, but outside the ring, it's probably even more impressive. He was awarded 3 Purple Hearts for his service in World War II in Korea. Not only is he the oldest active policeman in his 80s in the state of Florida, he is the oldest active policeman in the entire United States of America. And heaven help any criminal that comes and crosses his path and doesn't know it, they're in big trouble. But we are very, very happy and very fortunate to have him with us, and we're very happy to welcome him into the class of 2014, and he made the trek to be with us today. Please, a nice round of applause for Leo Thalassides. Paul Herman, a very well-respected boxing judge with the Florida State Boxing Commission. He later would go on to become a consultant with the Miccosukee Indian Boxing Commission in Miami, and he worked very closely with one of our beloved members, now departed Florida Boxing Hall of Fame inductee Don Hazelton. Did a lot of great work and very well respected, and we're very, very happy to have him in the class of 2014, Paul Herman. Our final inductee Alvin Goodman, he was an attorney who served on the Miami Boxing Commission, later the Florida State Athletic Commission. He also became the chairman at one point for the Boxing Commission. He was also known for performing magic tricks at ringside, so he was always able to keep people entertained when he was keeping them in line as well. But we're very, very happy to welcome the late Alvin Goodman into the Hall of Fame. We also have, during Hall of Fame weekend, a couple of awards that we present, Lifetime Achievement Awards, and we have two such individuals this year. First of all, we have Jimmy Resnick, who is the former vice president of the World Boxing Association. He later served as chairman of the Florida State Athletic Commission, and he was also our keynote speaker at our annual dinner that we have during Hall of Fame weekend, and gave some just great, great stories last year, and he's going to be receiving one of our Lifetime Achievement Awards. We also have an achievement award for one of the most respected boxing judges in the business, Peter Trematera. Peter's from Coral Springs, Florida. He's served as a boxing judge for the Florida State Boxing Commission almost 2 decades, and worked many high-profile title fights. If you saw an HBO or a Showtime world title fight, more than likely, and if it was in the state of Florida, Peter Trematera was one of the judges. So we are very happy to honor both Peter and Jimmy with those special awards. We have some special guests that we'd like to acknowledge that came to be with us today.